Today, we are taking a look at the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, and we're actually going to read them and see what they have to say. There's a lot of videos out there that talk about the Emerald Tablets, but we're actually going to look and see what they say themselves. Now, what are the Emerald Tablets of Thoth? The Emerald Tablets of Thoth are some tablets that are claimed to have been created by an Atlantean priest king known as Thoth 36,000 years ago. That's right, 36,000 years ago in Atlantis. Now, here's the thing that we have to understand when we talk about the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. What we're going to do, I did a poll. I've done another video about the Emerald Tablets, but I did a poll last week, and 95% of you said that you want to know what the actual tablets they say themselves, rather than just talking about them. You want to see what they actually say. So we're going to do that. 95%, that's a lot. So we're going to be diving into seeing exactly what it is that the Emerald Tablets have to say. And of course, examining it through logic and reason. That's extremely important. Now, before we get started, I just want to remind you, please like and subscribe, because my channel is all about bringing hidden knowledge to the public, not just as entertainment, but for the purpose of raising consciousness, because that's what's necessary to build and create a new world. We are at the precipice of a new beginning, and we are the catalysts of that new beginning. So help us out. Spread this information, hit like and subscribe. It helps out a lot. Just takes a second. Also, if you want to see my channel grow and help me create bigger and better videos, consider supporting over on Patreon. It's the best way to support my work, and you'll get access to all of our members only videos. And there's a new members only video every single week. Last week, we talked about where our future is headed. Are we headed towards a dystopian nightmare or a utopian dream? As we talked about all these, like transhumanism and AI and all kind of VR. So if you want to be a part of that and support my work, just go to patreon.com/MorgueOfficial and select any tier at all, and you'll get access to all of our members only videos with a new one every single week. Or you can support here on YouTube at tier 2 or higher by hitting the join button right below this video. Also, be aware there are scammers, people in the comments pretending to be me, saying to join my WhatsApp and Telegram. I don't have a WhatsApp, I don't have a Telegram, so don't believe that. Also, there are people and groups out there who don't like what I'm doing and don't like what we are doing and are spreading a lot of disinformation and misinformation about me, our group, and what we do. So just, again, use logic and reason and don't fall for the BS. All right, here we go, my friends. So like I said, we are actually reading the first Emerald Tablet today, the first Emerald Tablet of Thoth. So what are the Emerald Tablets? It's claimed that these were created 36,000, not 3,600, 36,000 years old by an Atlantean priest king known as Thoth. Now, these tablets were apparently discovered by an individual named Maurice Doreal. And Maurice Doreal said that these tablets were created in an indestructible green material that defies the laws of physics, written and engraved in the secret Atlantean language that communicated with the reader's mind. So it'd be really great if we had these, right? I mean, that would be great. Unfortunately, Doreal had to give them back to the Ascended Masters, or the members of, I believe, the Great White Brotherhood, which are these ascended beings that don't exist in this dimension. So he had to give them back. So if there are some alarm bells or red flags being raised here, they should. Doreal has absolutely no evidence to back any of this stuff. He doesn't even say where he found these. He just says, oh, they told me to go get them, and I did. And here's what they say. He doesn't say how he got them or where he got them. He doesn't have any evidence for them. So long story short, the Emerald Tablets are not real. They aren't actually created by Thoth. But we're still going to examine them today. And the reason why this is really important to know, because we're going to see how secret societies and occultism manipulate consciousness. A lot of people wonder, like, what are secret societies? What did they do? What is the occult about? What is esotericism about? And it's about a lot of different things. But there are some good people and there are some bad people. And there are some people out there who like to manipulate consciousness. And a lot of these systems, a lot of these people, and a lot of these groups, what they do is they start religions, because religions are extremely effective at manipulating consciousness. Now, and I think this is really important to understand, This is critical because guess what? The Emerald Tablets of Thoth are really popular right now. There's a lot of popular YouTube channels and TikTok videos talking about the Emerald Tablets from spiritual gurus saying that these are real. They're not, okay? And it's very important to understand this so that we can understand clearly and lucidly what existence is. Now, I talked about this last time, so we're not going to get too much into it today. If you want to know about that, I have another video all about this. But today we're going to be seeing what the Emerald Tablets actually have to say, and you can judge all this for yourself. You don't have to just believe what I say about them, but just keep that in mind. Doriel's making, the person who apparently discovered these are making some extremely big claims with absolutely nothing to back it up, zero at all. Now, it's also to understand a little bit about Doriel is that Doriel claimed to have traveled all over the world and trained in secret knowledge like Darjeeling in India and an underground hidden kingdom in Tibet. But his passport didn't showed that he didn't go to any of these places. So he tried to explain this away by saying, oh, well, I visited them astrally, like mentally. And there's a lot of other crazy things that he claimed. He claimed that he had complete memory of his past lives and all his incarnations, that he was an anointed chosen one of the Great White Lodge. He started his own religious group called the Brotherhood of the White Temple. He said that he prophesied the coming of an avatar that was chosen by the Ascended Masters to establish a new golden age of enlightenment, which obviously never happened. He claimed to have met 2 Atlanteans in Los Angeles who took him to an underground cave in Mount Shasta and told him all about like secret underground races. He said that an alien serpent race piloted flying saucers and that they would ally with the Antichrist and that they were frozen in Siberia but then became defrosted and overthrew the communist regime in Russia. And if that wasn't enough, his wife actually accused him of cheating on her, and Doriel complained that his wife denounced him as a fraud in front of all his disciples. So his wife said that he was a fake and a fraud and a phony, apparently. So Doriel has made a lot of big claims with nothing to back them up. So the idea here is to understand that Doriel knows what he's doing. Doriel realizes what he's doing and what he's creating. Now, this doesn't mean that we can't learn something from the Emerald Tablets, okay? Because guess what? A lot of this stuff is made up, like the Gnostic stories that we read as well. The Gnostic stories didn't actually happen, but they represent philosophical concepts and things and allegories and metaphors to help us understand existence. But we have to consciously acknowledge, hey, these are stories, so that we don't start believing in crazy random ideas. Like when we talk about the serpent in the Garden of Eden, there wasn't actually a serpent that spoke in the real Garden of Eden, etc. We can understand the Garden of Eden as representing a low state of consciousness. Eating from the tree of knowledge is gaining self-awareness, and stepping outside of the Garden of Eden as expanding one's consciousness and not being able to go back to a lower state of consciousness once one has done that. There's a lot of different ways that one can interpret it, but it's about understanding that these aren't actual, literally real stories. Before we get started, jump in. I just want to again say that this is a very common tactic used by secret societies and occultists and things like that when they are trying to manipulate people or manipulate the world, manipulate the consciousness of the people or the world, etc. It's about creating these religions. A great example of this, I gave this last time again, is Joseph Smith when he founded Mormonism. Now, Joseph Smith later became a Freemason, but he had family in Freemasonry. He was very familiar with Freemasonry. And if you look at Mormonism, there are Freemasonic symbols everywhere. There's the all-seeing eye. There's the bee in the honeycomb. There's stars. There are pentagrams. There are a ton of Masonic symbolism in Mormonism. So Joseph Smith had a very similar story to Doriel, like with the Emerald Tablets. So Joseph Smith claimed that an angel guided him to find secret golden plates that were engraved with Egyptian writing, and that Smith translated these plates, and that eventually became the Book of Mormon. But of course, he had to give the plates back to the angel. So he couldn't actually, you can't actually see them or verify anything that he said is true or not. So you can see that it's very, very similar to Doriel, who was saying that he just went out there and found these emerald tablets because the ascended masters told him to do this, and the tablets spoke to his mind, and he translated it apparently, and then gave it back to the ascended masters, so we can't read it. So, of course, my opinion is that it's very, very obvious that these aren't actually created by a god 36,000 years ago. But it's just something that I want to point out there and say that, like, hey, this is important because, look, we're here to raise our consciousness and understand hidden knowledge for the purpose of literally reaching higher levels of awareness. Not just like, oh, this is a cool story, like watching a Marvel movie or something like that. Reaching higher consciousness isn't about just like believing in crazy stories, right? Like reaching higher consciousness isn't about believing that, you know, oh, the pyramids are actually a secret space saucer beacon or whatever. Could they be? Maybe. I don't know. But that's not what it's not, that's not what it's about. This is about understanding reality by raising one's awareness. And one has to be very clear and lucid about this. And I'll move on to actually reading the tablets right now. I just want to say again, one last thing, that, hey, the reason why I talk about this so much is because this is really important. All right. And so when you have a lot of gurus and spiritualists and New Agers and TikTokers and YouTubers out there going like, oh, hey, the emerald tablets are real, you guys got to check this out. There are even people who are saying that the Bible is based on the emerald tablets, and that Jesus's teachings are like a ripoff of the emerald tablets, and the Bible is a ripoff of the emerald tablets. And that's no. The emerald tablets are were made up by some guy in the 1930s or 1925 or somewhere around there. And that's just so I'm just saying, like, be careful when you go around watching like YouTubers and just always use logic and reason, no matter who you're watching, even if it's me, of course, everyone, just always use logic and reason. And because there's a lot of people out there who are just saying things to get clicks and views, or they just haven't done any research themselves, or they have zero critical thinking skills. So it's really important to stay lucid, because remember, this is about reaching a higher state of consciousness. It's not about, oh, wow, this is a really cool story, or ancient aliens or whatever. Like, if you like that stuff, there's a lot of really interesting ideas and theories out there, and that's fine. But that's not what is about, reaching higher states of consciousness. It's about learning how to think in new ways and new concepts. And that's why we read stories like in Gnosticism, because we can understand them allegorically and metaphorically, like we can understand the archons as being structures of the mind that we have to overcome, like Yaldabaoth representing the ego, and the different eons representing higher structures of the mind, etc. Anyway, one final thing I also want to say before I start here is like, I had some people go and, oh, you're just like an atheist skeptic or whatever. No, I'm not an atheist. I believe that we are God. So that's, if you're new to this channel, I'm not, an atheist skeptic sort of person. I'm not a materialist. I believe that this is a mathematical reality, a reality of mind, that the material world is an illusion. But it's all based on reason and understanding that this is a mathematical reality of energy and frequency, and that we can know these things to be true from a philosophical standpoint through deductive reasoning, etc. It's just, so I'm not just dismissive of things because they can't be seen, felt, or heard. I'm very much a proponent of the fact that reality is fundamentally metaphysical, and that we can understand the metaphysical domain in a rational way. So that we are God, we are divine, we are eternal minds, beings of energy, beings of frequency. So yeah, don't think that I'm some materialist atheist who's just, this is just clearly, when you look at the evidence, you can see what these things are about. But let's actually read them, because I think that's another thing that a lot of people don't do, is actually see what these tablets have to say. So this is the first tablet. There's if I remember correctly, Doriel claims that there are 12 tablets, but he was only allowed to translate 10. I'm pretty sure that's what he said. So this is the first tablet. All right. So this is the first tablet as translated by Doriel, part 1, and it's called The History of Thoth the Atlantean. So let's get started here and see what this has to say. I, Thoth the Atlantean, master of mysteries, keeper of records, mighty king, magician, living from generation to generation, being about to pass into the halls of Amenti, set down for the guidance of those that are to come after, these records of the mighty wisdom of great Atlantis. In the great city of Kior, on the island of Undal, in a time far past, I began this incarnation, not as the little men of the present age did, the mighty ones of Atlantis live and die, but rather from eon to eon did they renew their life in the halls of Amenti, where the river of life flows eternally onward. By the way, after I read a paragraph or so, I'm going to go back and examine all this. So just bear with me as we read this. Let's see. 100 times 10 have I descended the dark way that led into light, and as many times have I ascended from the darkness into the light, my strength and power renewed. Now for a time I descend, and the men of Chem, and in parentheses it says Chem is alchemy in ancient Egypt. I assume that's a notation by Doriel. Now for a time I descend, and the men of Chem shall know me no more, but in a time yet unborn will I rise again, mighty and potent, requiring an accounting of those left behind me. Okay, so first of all, what's going on here? Well, it's just Thoth describing that he's an Atlantean and that he is a master of mysteries and a keeper of records. Right? He keeps records, he keeps the mysteries, he has great knowledge, great wisdom, and he's basically being depicted as an immortal. He's transcending generations, okay? So it says that he is preparing to leave for the halls of Amenti. So what are the halls of Amenti? The halls of Amenti are usually, it depends who you ask, right? But in occultism and in esotericism, the halls of Amenti are usually considered like a spiritual dimension or a spiritual realm. So he's saying that he's preparing to leave for the halls of Amenti, the spiritual realm, the spiritual domain, and that he's written records of Atlantis's wisdom for future generations, okay? So he talks about his life in Atlantis, in Kior, and he talks about how, the Atlanteans have a longer lifespan. I believe they said something about the Atlanteans having a longer lifespan, things like that. And he talks about repeated journeys between darkness and light, and this could be symbolizing cycles of death and rebirth, or even transitions of different states of beings, possibly different incarnations, but going through different transformations at the very least. So he talks about the fact that he's going to depart and that he won't belong to the people of Chem anymore, which is basically Egypt, but he prophesies his return. Okay, so he's talking about a cycle of absence and return, power and accountability. Now you can already see like a big similarity between Jesus and Thoth in a certain way, this idea that he is leaving, but he will come again. And we're going to see here that there are actually, we'll see in the next paragraph, areas where it's like, oh, well, the Bible is just a ripoff of the Emerald Tablets, which of course is not true, because the Emerald Tablets were not actually written 36,000 years ago. So it's really, it's funny because people will go, oh, look, if you read the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, you can see that it's saying some of the same things that the Bible said. So clearly the Bible is a ripoff of the Emerald Tablets. It's like, well, no, I mean, the Emerald Tablets were written after the Bible came out. So of course, just because some things share similarities isn't proof that one is based on the other, because it came out afterwards. Now I know they're claiming it came out 36,000 years ago, but there's literally zero evidence for that. Okay, but enough of that. I think one of the things that rubs me the wrong way. So like I grew up in a strict Christian household. We were not rich. I remember we would do back. I'm really gonna date myself here, but I remember that McDonald's used to have 29-cent cheeseburger days. 29-cent cheeseburger days. And when they would have that, my family would buy like something like at the very least 30 cheeseburgers, 29-cent cheeseburger days. At the very least, they would buy 30 cheeseburgers and freeze them. So we would have for lunch or dinner for a really freaking long time, because every 29-cent cheeseburger day, when we'd run out of cheeseburgers, we'd go to McDonald's again and get 30 more cheeseburgers and freeze them. Let me tell you, frozen McDonald's cheeseburgers are not amazing. They're not the best. They're also not very healthy for you. So, anyway, I digress. I grew up in a strict Christian household, and so I'm really about truth. And I left Christianity and I explored science. And I got, very disturbed when I realized that there's a lot of shady business and dogmatism going on in science as well. Now, I don't mean this in terms of like, I'm not a doubter of science when it comes to its technological usefulness. Science has created brilliant technology, and science has made incredible strides in health. So I'm not critiquing health or technology or anything like that, but the idea that reality is material and that we're random accidents, Big Bang Theory, all these ideas are philosophically fallacious, logically incoherent. And scientists are not honest about this, unfortunately, whether it's intentionally or just due to a lack of their own philosophical knowledge. It's usually just a lack of their own philosophical knowledge. They don't understand philosophy well enough to realize that their systems are fundamentally flawed. But it's very upsetting to go from religion, then go to science. It's like, oh, this bastion of reason, to realize, oh, it's not. So likewise, when I see people who are involved in the mystical community and the spiritual community peddling a bunch of BS, that's also upsetting to me, because everyone's just BSing each other, and it's ridiculous. This is why we have why do you think we have all these problems in the world? We have people massacring each other because they can't agree on which sky wizard is the right one or the real one. And so they're massacring each other, and you have all these different religions, you have all these different things. And a lot of these problems arise from people taking literally things that aren't true, or people intentionally creating material to manipulate people. So anyway, that's why I think it just really rubs me the wrong way when I see people who are apparently like, oh yeah, we're all about truth and knowledge and higher consciousness, and then just clearly peddling, BS, which is not cool in my book. So anyway, but let's continue here. Let's see what this has to say. This is really challenging for me here, because I know you guys want to. You told me you want to know what the Emerald Tablets have to say, so we're going to explore them, and I'll try and bite my tongue as much as possible here. But so let's continue to see what Thoth has to say here. It says, "Then beware, O men of Chem." So remember, Chem is Egypt, right? So beware, O men of Chem, if ye have falsely betrayed my teaching, for I shall cast ye down from your high estate into the darkness of the caves from whence ye came. Betray not my secrets to the men of the north or the men of the south, lest my curse fall upon ye. Remember and heed my words, for surely will I return again and require of thee that which ye guard. I, even from beyond time and from beyond death, will I return, rewarding or punishing as ye have requited your trust. Great were my people in the ancient days, great beyond the conception of the little people now around me. It's kind of a mean thing to say. Knowing the wisdom of old, seeking far within the heart of infinity knowledge that belonged to earth's youth. Wise were we with the wisdom of the children of light who dwelt among us. Strong were we in the power drawn from the eternal fire. And of all these things, greatest among the children of men was my father, Thoth, keeper of the great temple, link between the children of light who dwelt within the temple and the races of men who inhabited the 10 islands, mouthpiece after the 3 of the dweller of Unal, speaking to the kings with the voice that must be obeyed. Grew I there from a child into manhood, being taught by my father the elder mysteries, until in time there grew within the fire of wisdom, until it burst into a consuming flame. All right, so let's take a look at this and see what's being said here. So basically, it's a warning to the people of Egypt. He's basically saying that, hey, if you betray my message, if you teach this in the wrong way, he's going to F you up. He's going to punish those who do so. He's going to cast them down from being in a high place to a lower place. So they're talking about from a high. So this could either mean from like a high status to a low status, or even like a higher plane of consciousness to a lower plane of consciousness. Because it says, return to the darkness of the caves from whence he came. This could, again, either be referring to, I'm going to take your status away from you, or it could be, an idea relating to casting down to a lower form of consciousness. Either way, he's talking about how you have to keep the secret safe and not reveal them to outsiders. That's why they say, don't reveal them to the men of the north, the south, basically, keep these things secret. And once again, he's saying that he is going to return. He talks a little bit about his powerful father. And again, you can see a big similarity between this and the Bible, where there's God and the Son of God, and then even the children of the light, like Thoth speaks of the children of the light, this wise and powerful group. And then if you look at the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus says that we are all sons of the living Father, and that we are children of the light. Jesus Christ says we're children of the light. So there's a lot of things like this where people go, oh, the Bible's a ripoff of the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, and I think some people even say something like, oh, Jesus and the Buddha studied the Emerald Tablets in Egypt, or I don't know, maybe I can't remember some of the, there's very wild claims about this sort of stuff. And no, they're these, and I think you can tell even from, the tone in which this is written. So here, I'll give you another reason why one should doubt this, is because, look, so Thoth is supposed to be this Atlantean immortal priest king who has access to all this incredible technology and stuff, right? So we're going to, I don't know how many of the tablets we're going to read. It's going to be up to you guys. If you guys like this video, make sure you like this video. If you want to see what the other tablets have to say, this is just one of them. If you want to see what the other ones have to say, tell me in the comments. We're not done with this one yet, by the way. There's a lot more to this, but tell me if you want me to continue this or not. But I'll tell you, another thing that would easily solve all this, if these were actually real, if these were actually true, why didn't Thoth record something like a mathematical equation or some sort of scientific blueprint for some technology or something? How come it's not anything that, if you had access to all this, wisdom and secrets of the universe, why is it that, he's a 36,000-year-old, it was written 36,000 years old. He's basically an immortal, the wielder of magic, inventor of the mysteries, all this stuff. Why could he not have included something in this that would be verifiable, like an equation of some kind that hasn't been discovered yet, or a principle that hasn't been, a principle is not really a good one to say, but a mathematical equation or a, piece of technological information or something that you could easily put in here, just like we could easily do that. If we were trying to communicate to a community thousands of years from now, and we have technology more and understand technology more than apparently they're going to, we would easily be able to put that kind of information in there, but there isn't. Now, that's not to say that there isn't good information in here. We'll see. There is some good information in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, because I'm sure Doriel, I don't know everything about Doriel, but I'm based on what Doriel writes and his involvements, I'm sure Doriel had a ton of esoteric knowledge. So Doriel wrote these, and I'm sure he included a lot of very important information. And so that doesn't mean we can't learn from these things, but it's important to realize what these are. And okay, let's continue. So far to the stars, I journeyed until space and time became as naught. Then, having drunk deep of the cup of wisdom, I looked into the hearts of men, and there found I greater mysteries, and was glad. For only in the search for truth could my soul be stilled, and the flame within be quenched. Down through the ages I lived, seeing those around me taste of the cup of death, and return again in the light of life. He's basically a vampire. Gradually replaced by spawn of a lower star. In obedience to the law, the word of the master grew into flower. Downward into the darkness turned the thoughts. Just one thing that strikes me as interesting, because he says, in obedience to the law, the word of the master grew into flower. I don't know what Doriel was involved with. I don't know if he had connections to Freemasonry, but it seems like I would bet that he probably did, because I see that it said the word of the master. Word of the master is something that's used in Freemasonry a lot. It's called the lost word of the master, trying to find the lost word of the master. That's a big theme or part of the Masonic mythos, is this idea called the lost word of the master, that's supposed to contain like the secrets of existence when you understand this lost word. But anyway, just kind of interesting that he used the term the word of the master. Could be a coincidence, but it strikes me as possibly Masonically influenced here. Downward into the darkness turned the thoughts of the Atlanteans, until at last in this wrath arose from his Aguanti, the dweller. And then in parentheses, it says, this word has no English equivalent. It means a state of detachment. Speaking the word, calling the power. Yeah, it does seem very, I would bet this is Masonically influenced, I would bet. Because speaking the word, calling upon the power, the word of the master, it's a lot of, it's very Masonic-esque here. So speaking the word, calling the power, deep in earth's heart, the sons of Amenti heard and hearing, directing the changing of the flower of fire that burns eternally, changing and shifting, using the logos until that great fire changed its direction. Over the world then broke the great waters, drowning and sinking, changing earth's balance until only the temple of light was left standing on the great mountain of Undal, still rising out of the water, some there who were living saved from the rush of the fountains. So again, common themes here that's being discussed. First of all, he talks about journeying beyond space and time, beyond the physical realm. He's talking about seeing people live and die as he's immortal. He talks about having the seeing the burning flower of truth, or the changing of the flower of fire that burns eternally, changing and shifting. He talks about a shift in consciousness of the people of Atlantis, that they had a heightened state of consciousness, but then went to a lower form, a less enlightened state that he calls the spawn of a lower star. Which is kind of cool wording. I like star imagery, and spawn of a lower star. That's an interesting way to describe things. I think that's kind of cool. He talks about the dweller, which is this powerful entity that became wrathful and detached. And he describes this as the flower of fire changing its direction. Some kind of shift happened. And then we talk about this cataclysm, right? This event that happened where there was a great flood, and this changed everything. And the only thing that was left was the Temple of Light standing on a mountain. But some people survived. Again, very similar to the Bible, where, you know, you have the dweller, and the dweller becomes angry, and then there's a flood, and the only thing left is the Temple of Light on the mountain. Very similar to the Bible, where God becomes angry and floods the world, and then the only thing left is Noah's Ark on top of that mountain. It continues here by saying, "Called to me then the master, saying, gather ye together my people, take them by the arts ye have learned of far across the waters, until ye reach the land of the hairy barbarians." That doesn't sound like a pleasant place to go. The land of the hairy barbarians. No, thank you. That's not a vacation. I'm not getting an Airbnb at the land of the hairy barbarians. Okay, so go far, go away, until you reach the land of the hairy barbarians, dwelling in caves of the desert. Follow there the plan that ye know of. Gathered I then my people, and entered the great ship of the master. Upward we rose into the morning. Dark beneath us lay the temple. Suddenly over it rose the waters. Vanished from earth until the time appointed was the great temple. Suddenly, I read that. First, fast we fled toward the son of the morning, until beneath us lay the land of the children of Chem, or Egypt. Raging, they came with cudgels and spears, lifted in anger, seeking to slay and utterly destroy the sons of Atlantis. Then raised I my staff and directed a ray of vibration. Oh, God. All right, sorry, hold on. Let me just finish this and then so then I raised my staff and directed a ray of vibration, striking them still in their tracks as fragments of stone of the mountain. Then spoke I to them in words calm and peaceful. Wait, he froze them, and then he spoke to them calmly and peacefully? Okay. Anyway, he's telling them of the might of Atlantis, saying we were children of the sun and its messengers. Cowed I them by my display of magic science, until at my feet they groveled when I released them. All right, so he traveled over to the lands of the hairy barbarians, and he got there, and the residents of Egypt did not like them and were running at them with spears. But Thoth raised his staff and directed a ray of vibration, causing them to freeze. And then told them, hey, don't worry, we're from Atlantis, we're from children of the sun. And then they were like, oh, okay, well, we're going to worship you now. The reason why I laugh at this, well, for a couple reasons, I'm sure that you can surmise. But specific people will remain nameless. I remember seeing clips on YouTube or TikTok or whatever of certain spiritual gurus and whatnot being like, oh yeah, Thoth had this staff and it could shoot out rays and freeze people. See, that's just, it's not okay. Like, no. I'm telling you right now, this did not happen. This doesn't mean we can't read about it and it be interesting, but it didn't happen. And so it's very irresponsible for gurus and spiritualists to be walking around like telling people. First of all, it also just looks bad. You know, if you're like trying to talk, it just muddies the waters too. Like, we can understand that this is a reality of frequency and this is a reality of mind. And like in our system, in the Neogenian system, we use meta-rationalism to understand the metaphysical rational. We want to understand rationally. We want to understand metaphysics better than science understands the physical domain, with mathematical rigor and precision. And they go around talking about like 36,000-year-old Atlantean priests that freeze people with their magic rays that, like, do I have proof this didn't happen? No, but it's highly improbable. There is absolutely zero evidence for this, and there's a lot of evidence that it didn't because of its shady origins. The fact that Doriel is clearly a shyster and has zero evidence for these magical tablets that talk to his mind. So, you know, and again, if this was supposed to be convincing, instead of talking about this magical ray staff that you have, include some schematics on how to build one. Or if you don't want to do that because you think humans would destroy each other with it, describe something benevolent, like, you know, how to create food more easily and plentifully, you know, grow food in desert locations, or I don't know, pick something that could benefit humanity, or at least in some way show that you are in fact an Atlanteus priest king wielder of magic science. And not just say, oh, well, I froze people with my magic ray staff. Anyway, let's continue. This is very difficult for me, so I hope you appreciate the fact that I'm trying. This is me trying hard not to be critical. And I would have no problem with this if people were more upfront. Like I said with Gnosticism, we read about it on my channel, but it didn't happen. And that's the main thing to understand, is that when we read about Gnosticism and we can read about, oh, how you know, Yaldabaoth was generated by Sophia and created the material world, we can understand that this didn't actually happen. There's no actual Yaldabaoth as literally described in Gnosticism, who is trapping souls. At least we have no evidence for that, and ultimately it doesn't matter. What matters is learning how to raise our consciousness. And believing about 36,000-year-old magic ray staffs does not help one in understanding reality better. In fact, it is a hindrance to understanding reality if you're taking these things to be literally true, because one isn't exercising critical thinking. Because can we know for sure this isn't true? No. But if one knows how to use critical thinking, you can understand that it's highly improbable. And not because, oh, you're just a materialistic atheist. I'm not. No, because there are extremely large claims being made with no evidence, no proof, no arguments, no, just literally nothing backing it up at all. And then a lot of clearly false claims that were made by the originator of this as well. So anyway, it's, you know, like I said, my channel here is about bringing hidden knowledge without the BS in a way that's accessible. And I hope you guys can use it as tools and it benefits your life in some way. So, and I think this is a really good case in point why I say that, hey, if you want to understand reality better, take a philosophy 101 class first and foremost. And that's real simple. You don't even have to like go take a college class or something. You can, there's playlists for free online. Great playlists that you can watch philosophy 101 class, because that teaches you how to think critically. Because if you dive right into esoteric stuff and occult stuff, you're going to find stuff like this, which are, it can really get your mind wrapped around when you start reading things like this, and then like theosophy and thelema, and when a lot of the people who are you know, a lot of people who originated some of this material was intentionally manipulating consciousness. Like, this is intentionally designed to manipulate consciousness. It's creating a story, just like religion. This is basically a failed attempt at creating a religion. That's what this is. He tried to create a religion called the Brotherhood of the White Temple or something. I don't know if it was based on this or not, but he tried. This is essentially a failed religion, which is not good, because you can see what happens when, if this were true, now we'd have people arguing about, oh, well, no, Thoth with his ray gun is the real Jesus, or Jesus is just a ripoff of, we'd have more problems. But if you understand it allegorically, there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine, and we can learn stuff from that. Let me keep reading. I'm not doing a good job at not being critical, but let's continue. So what happened here? Where did we leave off? Yes, he froze everyone. He froze everyone in Egypt, and they worshipped him. Long dwelt we in the land of Chem, or Egypt. Long and yet long again. It's just, I'm trying not to be critical. It's just, you'd think that an Atlantean priest king would be a little more eloquent than saying, we dwelt there for a long time, for a really long time, and then a really long time. Long we dwelt in the land of Chem, long and yet long again, until obeying the commands of the master, who, while sleeping, yet lives eternally, I sent from me the sons of Atlantis, sent them in many directions, that from the womb of time wisdom might rise again in her children. Long time dwelt I in the land of Chem, or Egypt, doing great works of the wisdom within me. Upward grew into the light of knowledge the children of Chem, or Egypt, watered by the rains of my wisdom. The people of Egypt are learning because he's teaching them. Blasted I then a path to Amenti, so that I might retain my powers, living from age to age, a son of Atlantis, keeping the wisdom, preserving the records. Great grew the sons of Chem, conquering the people around them, growing slowly upwards in soul force. Now for a long time I go from among them into the dark holes of Amenti, deep in the halls of the earth, before the lords of the powers, face to face once again with the dweller. Raised I high over the entrance a doorway, a gateway leading down to Amenti. Few there would be with courage to dare it, few passed the portal to dark Amenti. Raised over the passage I, a mighty pyramid, using the power that overcomes earth force, gravity. So he created the pyramid of Giza, apparently. Over the halls of Amenti. So I don't know if this is supposed to be like a portal or something. So underneath the pyramid of Giza, which apparently Thoth created, lies the entrance to the halls of Amenti, which I'm assuming is supposed to be like a portal to another dimension. Because the halls of Amenti is usually like a spiritual dimension, spiritual domain. Deeper and yet deeper and yet deeper placed I, a force house or chamber. From it I carved a circular passage reaching almost to the great summit. There in the apex I set the crystal, sending the ray into the time space, drawing the force from out of the ether, concentrating upon the gateway of Amenti. All right, so I think he's saying that he put a crystal on the top of the pyramid and that it grabbed rays drawing from the force out of the ether, concentrating upon the gateway of it. And by the way, let's not even get into the ether. Okay, let's not start with that. Anyway, pyramid is a portal for another dimension. Other chambers I built and left vacant to all, seemingly, yet hidden within them are the keys to Amenti. He who in courage would dare the dark realms, let him be purified first by long fasting. Lie in the sarcophagus of stone in my chamber, then reveal to him the great mysteries. So, last part here, it says, soon shall he follow to where I shall meet him, even in the darkness of earth shall I meet him. I, Thoth, Lord of Wisdom, meet him and hold him and dwell with him always. Builded I the great pyramid, patterned after the pyramid of earth force, burning eternally so that it too might remain through the ages. In it I built my knowledge of magic science, so that I might be here when again I return from Amenti. While I sleep in the halls of Amenti, my soul roaming free will incarnate, dwell among men in this form or another. And then parentheses, it says Hermes thrice born. So, and I'm sure that's like Doriel saying, putting that in parentheses. So Doriel is claiming that Thoth incarnated as Hermes Trismegistus and wrote the Emerald Tablet of Hermes Trismegistus. Okay, so for those who don't know, there is a real Emerald Tablet. The real Emerald Tablet is called the Emerald Tablet of Hermes Trismegistus, or also known as the Smaragdine Tablet. Now, we don't know who actually wrote it. Hermes Trismegistus is a mythological figure. It wasn't written by him. We don't know who wrote it, but it's an actual real document. We don't have it in about what I think it was like 800 BC. No. 800 CE. We have the first translations in Arabic of it. So over 1,000 years old. And it's a translation of apparently what was written in a tablet, claimed by to be written by Hermes, but wasn't written by Hermes. We don't know who it was written by. But anyway, this is real. It's not real because like it wasn't actually written by Hermes, but it's real in the fact that it is an actual old piece of information. It's only a page long. It's very short, but a lot of the greatest minds in the world were fascinated by it. Sir Isaac Newton was incredibly infatuated with it. He thought it contained the secrets of alchemy. And he actually wrote a translation of the Emerald Tablet of Hermes. But this is the Emerald Tablet of Hermes, which is at least over 1,000 years old. Not 36,000 years old. All right. Not 36,000 years old, over 1,000 years old. And the information in there is really good. It's really interesting. This is where, if you ever heard as above, so below, that's where that comes from. It has really good information, really good knowledge. We'll take a look at that sometime if you guys want. I did a video kind of related to it where I discussed it, but we can take a look at it again if you guys want at some point. But anyway, Doriel is claiming that Thoth incarnated as Hermes and wrote that Emerald Tablet, which is not true. Anyway, emissary on earth am I of the dweller. Again, very similar to like God and Christ. You have the dweller and Thoth fulfilling his commands so that many might be lifted. Now return I to the halls of Amenti, leaving behind me some of my wisdom. Preserve ye and keep ye the command of the dweller. Lift ever upwards your eyes towards the light. Surely in time ye are one with the master. Surely by right ye are one with the master. Surely by right yet are one with the all. Now I depart from ye, know my commandments, keep them and be them, and I will be with you, helping and guiding you into the light. Now before me opens the portal, go I down into the darkness of the night. All right, so this was the first tablet of the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, where it describes him. And you'll notice there's not really that much that we can learn from this. This reads more like a mythos. This just reads more like a comic book story. It's about, oh yeah, I lived like 36,000 years ago. I chopped people with my magic science staff, and I did all these things, and there was a flood, and I built the Great Pyramid, and I created a portal to another dimension, and things like that. Not a lot of like stuff that we can really dig into and learn from. But this was just the first tablet. I believe the second tablet starts to discuss the halls of Amenti, and then there's 8 more tablets, because I think there's only 10 in this one, if I remember correctly. Could be wrong about that, but I think that there's only 10. But this is what I want to know from you guys. I want you to tell me in the comments if you want to continue, if you want me to read the other tablets as well. Tell me. I want to know what you think. Let me know, because what you guys enjoy watching, that's what I enjoy creating, because I'm here to try and bring information in a way that is as easily accessible as possible. So let me know, tell me in the comments below. But yeah, so like I said, we can learn from this, we can understand from these things, but very important to be critical, very important to be, and this is a great example of why one has to be careful when dealing with esoterica and occultism, so you don't get, caught up in wild conspiracy theories and believe in this 36,000-year-old magic science person, or start believing that the moon is hollow, or that, I don't know, there's a lot of, or the earth is flat, or whatever. There's a lot of wild ideas out there that are not rooted in reason. And it's really important to understand this and demarcate this, as we really have to realize that stepping into a higher consciousness is about understanding how we work and how existence works. Know thyself and you will know the universe and the gods, not know about magic staff man Ray and one will reach. No, that has nothing to do with reaching a higher consciousness. Like I said, it's like believing that a snake was talking in the Garden of Eden. If you believe that a snake was literally talking in the Garden of Eden, that has nothing to do with reaching a higher consciousness. But if you understand that as an allegory for, eating from the tree of knowledge as gaining self-awareness and then stepping into a higher consciousness and realizing that eating of knowledge allows one to have knowledge of oneself and the divine, that's completely different than just believing, oh, there was a snake that talked and a woman ate a fruit, and now we all have to believe in Jesus, or we're going to burn in hell for eternity. You see, that's not helpful. So we have to just be very, very clear about what it is that allows us to reach. And there's a lot of BS out there, and we just want to be clear. We want to be lucid. We want to be tapped into the source intuitively, understand the metaphysical domain, but we want to do so through meta-rationalism, to understand it rationally. We want to be grounded and guided so that we can be truly masters of ourselves and of our own minds and create a better world. And, this kind of stuff can be dangerous and is intentionally created. Like this stuff is intentionally created to manipulate consciousness. I'm sure that he had good intentions, but it doesn't matter. Just like Joseph Smith probably had good intentions, but look at all the damage that gave rise to. And this could have been just as bad, but it didn't take off. It was a failed religion, essentially. But there's a lot of ones that aren't and lead to a lot of chaos and destruction. And this is why occultism and esotericism, a lot of it's rooted in the manipulation of consciousness. Doesn't mean that everyone into that stuff is bad. That's not, there's a lot of very intelligent, a lot of enlightened people, but there are also people who are not so great. So we want to be cautious. We want to be careful. We want to use logic and reason. We want to be clear. We want to be lucid so that we can live a better life, change ourselves, and change the world. So anyway, tell me in the comments if you want more of this or not. Let me know. I want to hear what you have to say. Press like, press subscribe. And if you enjoy my work, support over on Patreon. That's the best way to support my work. You'll get access to all of our members only videos. There's a lot of them. So just go to patreon.com/MorgueOfficial. And if you support at any tier, you'll get access to all that. If you support at tier 2 or higher on YouTube, you'll also get access to all that by hitting the join button right below this video. I want to, and always, hey, remember, this isn't church, so don't feel obligated to support monetarily. You don't have to, but there are plenty of free ways you can support, like liking and subscribing and sharing. I do want to shout out everyone who supports, though. It means a lot. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much to Renaissance Fairy, Cassidy, Angela, the Halloween Mom, DB, and Key, Nusalina, Masam, Eric Fire, Christopher Smith, and everyone else. Thank you very much.